Hello and welcome back to another edition of Viper Bites presented by the Fantasy Points Media Group. Head over to fantasypoints.com today and save yourself 10% off that subscription by using promo code VIPERS22, your one-stop shop for all your fantasy football needs. Now what I need to continue on with this top 5 dynasty assets here for each and every team here in the National Football League. And this time we turn our attention to the Minnesota Vikings, starting off with the number 2 overall ranked wide receiver per those consensus rankings, Justin Jefferson. No receiver has more receiving yards through the first 2 NFL seasons than Justin Jefferson's 3,016. Jefferson has averaged 15.4 yards per reception and 91.4 yards per contest since entering the league. And last season, while Adam Thielen missed time due to injury, Jefferson received 27.6% of a target share. And while the return of Thielen means the number will regress somewhat, we know Thielen's best days are likely behind him. We know what Cooper Kupp was capable of in this Kevin O'Connell offense, so you better believe we haven't seen the best from Jefferson yet. As mentioned, Thielen's not going to be there forever. And if you look at the splits for Jefferson with and without Thielen, you see a considerable boost in expected fantasy points, yards per route run, and an increase in that PFF receiving grade. Now let's turn our attention to the running back position here. One of the top running backs in the National Football League, and that is Dalvin Cook. Currently going on as the RB8 right now in fantasy, and COVID and injuries, they basically slowed him down somewhat back in 2021, limiting his ability to practice from week to week. But when he was on the field, he was in your lineup. It didn't matter how much time he missed. As soon as he got the go-ahead to go, he was good to go in that lineup. Cook's 1,159 rushing yards was the 5th highest total among running backs a season ago. Looking at 2019 and 2020, you will see that Cook's production was elite, ranking second in yards after contact with 1,893. In total yards at 2,914 and touchdowns with 29. And now he gets to primarily work from a zone scheme offense in which he excels. Cook's talent has never been in question, but that shoulder will always be a risk and something fantasy managers need to plan ahead for. That said, expect Cook to return to that 2020 form that saw him average 1.6 points per run per game, which was actually even better than what Jonathan Taylor produced in 2021. Now, looking at the tight end position, one of my dynasty mustache guys here right now, Irv Smith Jr., going up the board as a tight end number 16. With an increase in passing likely coming with this new Kevin O'Connell offense this season, this could be the year that Irv Smith's promise meets production. Jefferson will get his, Thielen will get some look, especially in the red zone, but Irv Smith Jr. will get an opportunity to pick up a good portion of those 87 vacated targets that Tyler Conklin had last season. Conklin hauled in 61 of those 87 passes for 593 yards, and Smith is a much more talented pass catcher. There's no ands, ifs, or buts about that compared to Conklin. Another thing going in Smith's favor is that the Vikings, they didn't bring any competition in for those targets at the tight end position. And it all comes down to how those targets are distributed, and all comes down to Kirk Cousins. Now listen, I'm going to drop some facts here. Right now, he is going off as the QB 20 in Dynasty. Okay, fair enough, whatever you want to say. But since 2018, Cousins is 14th in fantasy points per game while ranking in the top 6 in both completion percentage, 68.3, and passer rating at 103.5. Over the last 2 seasons, now listen up, he has finished as a weekly top 12 fantasy option. Get ready for this? 53% of the time. Cousins has averaged over 4,000 passing yards and 31 touchdowns over the last 4 seasons. And now he has an offensive-minded coach calling the plays. Cousins had a better PFF grade, passer rating, and touchdowns, along with fewer interceptions than everyone's darling here, Kyler Murray. Fun fact, Kirk Cousins has tossed a touchdown in 30 straight contests, which happens to be the longest such streak in the National Football League. How do you like me now? You like that? Now, the last guy here on the Fantasy 5, the top 5 assets here for the Minnesota Vikings, we have to talk about Alexander Madison. RB38 as per the experts' consensus rankings here right now. Look, Adam Thielen, wide receiver 51. He's overall 122. He is 31 years of age and coming off a significant injury in 2021. Thielen, sure, to his credit, he probably has 2 to 3 more good seasons ahead of him. But I'm looking long-term here. Madison carries a little bit more value. There's always a chance that Madison's stock stays grounded until either he or Cook moves on. Cook is set to become a free agent in 2023, but the Vikings, The Vikings should actually cut Cook after the season and only have to deal with paying him $2 million. If that were the case, we would be able to see what Madison is truly capable of when afforded that opportunity. Madison has averaged 104.4 rushing yards per game, 4.6 yards per carry, 23.4 fantasy points per game in 5 games in which he has handled a workload greater than 20 carries. So when he is given that opportunity, Alexander Madison is definitely in the talk for a top 10 type running back in fantasy. That all said, if you want one of the top fantasy subscriptions out there today, you have to head to fantasypoints.com, enter promo code Vipers22, and get yourself 10% off the one-stop shop, all you could possibly need, fantasy information there that the Fantasy Points crew is putting together. And as always, if you're listening to us on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, take a second, rate and review us. And if you're watching us right here on the Vipers Network, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and of course, make sure those notifications are turned on because we got so much content coming out your way. It's coming at you daily, so stay tuned because there's plenty more to come.